The restaurant was busy that evening, full of chatter, clinking glasses and soft music. It was one of the nicest places in town, elegant tables, sparkling lights and waiters moving smoothly between guests. People came here from all walks of life. Some were dressed in suits and expensive dresses, while others came just to enjoy a special night out. The air smelled of rich food and fresh flowers. Emma worked there as a waitress. She had been at this restaurant for many years and everyone who knew her saw how kind and hardworking she was. She didn't just bring food to tables, she brought warmth and care, even when some customers were impatient or rude. Emma smiled, listened and tried her best to make each person feel important. It wasn't an easy job, but she took pride in it. At home, Emma was a single mother. She worked long hours to support her young son, making sure he had everything he needed. Money was tight and life was often hard, but Emma never let those struggles change who she was. She believed in dignity, respect, and doing her job well, no matter what. That night, as Emma was checking on her tables, a man walked in who stood out from the rest. Tall and dressed in a fine suit, he carried himself with an air of power and pride. Mr. Langley, one of the richest men in town, had arrived. From the moment he stepped inside, his eyes scanned the room like he owned it. When he spotted Emma, he immediately looked down at her with a cold, entitled stare. The tension in the air shifted though no one spoke yet. Something was about to happen. Mr. Langley didn't waste a second. When Emma approached his table with the menu, he barely glanced at her. "I want the best table," he said sharply, "and make sure you keep the service quick. I don't have all day." His voice was loud enough for nearby customers to hear. Emma smiled politely, hiding the sting his words caused. She had heard people like him before, those who believed money made them better than others, but Emma knew she deserved respect, no matter what. "Of course, sir," she said calmly. She showed him to a corner table, the best spot in the restaurant. Throughout the meal, Mr. Langley was rude. He snapped his fingers to call Emma over, spoke to her as if she were invisible, and acted as if she was just a servant, a phrase he actually used more than once in front of other guests. Emma's heart sank every time she heard it, but she kept her head high. She was used to people treating her like less, but she had never been willing to accept it. Other customers whispered quietly, their eyes shifting between Emma and the arrogant man. Some looked uncomfortable, but no one said a word. Emma tried to focus on her work, but the humiliation weighed on her. Then, as she reached for the water pitcher to refill his glass, her hand slipped, a small splash spilled on the tablecloth. Mr. Langley's face twisted with anger. "Are you blind? Can't you do anything right?" he shouted. The restaurant fell silent for a moment. Emma took a deep breath. She could feel tears threatening to fall, but she pushed them back. "I'm sorry, sir," she said quietly, "but I am more than just a servant to be spoken to like that." Her words surprised everyone, including herself. The restaurant was still, the tension thick in the air. For once, Emma didn't shrink away. She stood tall with a calm strength she hadn't known she had. Mr. Langley looked furious, but no one moved. The moment felt like it would change everything. After Mr. Langley's angry glare, Emma stepped back quietly, feeling her heart pounding. She returned to the kitchen, her hands trembling slightly. Her coworker Sarah caught her eye and gave a small worried nod. Emma didn't need to say anything. They both knew how hard it was to face people like that day after day. In the small break room, Emma sat down for a moment. She thought about all the times she had swallowed her pride, smiled through insults, and stayed silent just to keep her job. But tonight felt different. Tonight she felt a fire inside her that would not be put out. "I can't do this anymore," Emma whispered to herself. "I deserve respect, not this." Her voice was steady, even as her hands clenched into fists. Emma stood up, her decision clear. She wasn't going to wait for someone else to stand up for her. She was going to do it herself. She walked back to the dining room, every step filled with courage and quiet strength. The restaurant was still busy, but all eyes seemed to turn toward Emma as she approached Mr. Langley's table again. She took a deep breath and spoke clearly, so everyone could hear. "I'm sorry, but I'm done. I won't work here anymore if this is how I'm going to be treated, like I'm less than human. I'm not just a servant. I'm a person who deserves respect. There was a sudden silence, the music seemed to fade, and the chatter stopped. Emma stood there, waiting, unsure of what would happen next. Would someone support her? Or would she be left alone? The moment held tight, like the quiet before a storm. For a moment the whole restaurant was silent. Emma's words hung in the air like a challenge no one expected. Mr. Langley's face flushed with anger. He stood up abruptly, towering over her. "You don't get to talk to me like that," he barked. But then something unexpected happened. A man sitting at a nearby table stood up slowly, clearing his throat. "She's right," he said firmly. "No one should be treated like that. We're all people here." One by one, other customers began to rise from their seats. A woman near the window nodded, a young couple stood hand in hand, and even a group of businessmen stopped their conversation to watch. The restaurant was filled with a quiet but growing wave of support. Emma's co-workers joined in, gathering around her with smiles and nods. Sarah, the co-worker from the break room, stepped forward. "Emma has worked here longer than most of us. She's one of the kindest people you'll meet, and she deserves better than this." The owner of the restaurant, who had been watching quietly from the kitchen door, came out and spoke with a serious look. "Emma, I'm sorry you were treated this way. No one working here should feel disrespected. I promise to do better, and make sure everyone is treated fairly." Mr. Langley, now outnumbered and silenced, muttered something under his breath but quickly sat down defeated. Then came the biggest surprise of all. A woman seated near the back, who had been quietly observing, stood up. She was dressed simply but carried an air of confidence. "My name is Mrs. Carter," she said, "and I run a company that values hard work and respect above all else. Emma, I want to offer you a job in my office. You deserve a place where people appreciate you." Emma's eyes widened. This offer was beyond anything she had hoped for. The restaurant filled with applause and cheers. In that moment, Emma realized she was no longer invisible. She wasn't just a servant. She was someone who had the power to change her own life, and inspire others to do the same. Emma stood quietly, as the applause filled the room. Her heart was pounding, but for the first time in a long time, it was filled with hope instead of fear. Mrs. Carter's offer was more than just a job, it was a chance for a new beginning. After thanking everyone, Emma gathered her things and walked toward the exit. The restaurant, once a place of quiet humiliation, now felt different. It was a place where she had found her voice and won the respect she deserved. Outside, the cool evening air brushed against her face. She looked up at the stars and smiled softly. Life hadn't been easy, but tonight had changed everything. Emma wasn't just a waitress, a single mother struggling to get by. She was a woman who had stood up for herself, who had shown others that dignity isn't about money or status. It's about how we treat each other. In the days that followed, Emma started her new job. The work was different, but the respect she received made it feel right. She felt proud again, and her son noticed the change too. For the first time in a long time, Emma believed she could build a better future, not just for herself, but for her family. Looking back, Emma knew that night in the restaurant was more than just a moment of courage. It was a reminder to everyone watching that sometimes all it takes is one person willing to speak up. One person can change not only their own story, but the story of those around them, and Emma was ready for whatever came next.